AITA, telling my parents to pay me back my college tuition if they want a relationship. I was raised by parents who believed, religiously and just culturally, in rigid gender roles. Dad should work, mom should stay home with the kids. I'm the only girl and have 3 brothers. Because of their expectation I'd stay home with kids, they never valued my education, educational achievements, or emphasized things beyond domestic skills. I'm the second youngest. By the time I was in high school, my 2 older brothers had gone to the college of their choice, with my parents fully covering tuition, books, an off-campus apartment and other living expenses. They eventually did the same for my younger brother. I was told I wasn't allowed to apply for college. I did so in secret and got accepted with a partial scholarship. I didn't tell them I was moving out until a week before I left, with essentially nothing but what a few friends gave to me that their parents bought them for college. I took engineering, and had to work, take on debt and struggle. My parents and I have barely spoken for years. I'm married now and expecting our first child, and they asked to meet up. We met at a park, and they said they were sorry if they caused me pain but would like a relationship now. I asked them specifically what they were sorry for. They wouldn't elaborate and just said they wanted to move forward. I said that wasn't sufficient. In the end, I said they could prove they were sorry by forwarding me the $100,000 my degree and college expenses were, just like they did for my brothers. My mom burst into tears. My dad said I wasn't being serious and I just left. Since then, I've been getting calls from my brothers telling me I'm being immature and hurtful. I don't think so at all. NTA. Hi from another engineer from a family filled with rage that she has all the talent that the boy was never up to. As far as I can see, your answer to them was perfect. It was very fair, and if they have fixed their appalling bigotry issues, they would be falling all over themselves begging you to take the money. Since they clearly have not fixed their bigotry, you don't want them around your child. Never, ever poison children by allowing bigots in their presence. No exceptions. That includes your bigoted brothers. Edited to add, I have a bachelor's, master's, and doctorate all in engineering. You have no idea how angry this makes them. Hopefully you will too, and we can all watch the bigots faint from sheer rage together. Ha ha ha. Exactly, they aren't sorry for how they treated Op, they just want to be able to have access to their grandkid. So they can abuse it if it's a girl and turn it into a bigot no matter what. I wouldn't go that far. Many parents want to dote on their grandkids. They don't necessarily have a nefarious plan to brainwash them. But they probably have some sort of particular desire to see original post be a mother, and perhaps even a fear that she won't be a good one because of her independent streak. And while they don't want to turn her into a bigot, they will certainly try to impose their own notion of gender roles onto her. There's a whole fascinating world out there of abusive parents who have been cut off by their children, who believe they have something called grandparents' rights to be in the grandkids' lives. I can understand the notion that having grandchildren that are turned against you that you never have the option to meet can be extremely painful, but the forums are filled with narcissists unable to acknowledge their own bad behavior. I don't know, maybe we're saying the same thing. I just try to have some degree of empathy for even the worst people in these situations and try to understand it from their perspective. Even if they are deluded and dangerous. There was a story a while ago about a grandmother who didn't believe her grandchild really had a peanut allergy. I still think it's useful to understand their motivations and that they, too, live in their self-created worlds where they are the good guys. While they might not go in with the intent of abusing more children, history more than likely repeats itself because that's what abusers do with defenseless little kids. Especially narcissistic grandparents. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. My dad's mother was weird and had some pretty effed up ideas about how to raise kids. I barely remember her, but what I do remember is not good. If you ask my cousins, they'll tell you she spoiled me because I was the baby of all the cousins and the only child of the only son. She did not spoil me. She gave me the most stuff, because of my dad, but I was still a girl and girls didn't deserve attention or love. Edits, not the butthole op, NTA. My Phil abused my husband. Then when I was in the picture, he abused me. We have 3 kids. And while I never saw him do anything abusive to them, no one really ever saw him abuse me either. Then again, is it abusive to crap talk a kid's mother to them? It certainly isn't good for them. So we don't see them anymore except when my spouse is willing to supervise, and they're not allowed to be alone with my kids. Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of trauma therapy. Good intentions mean nothing. Intention isn't magic. Sounds like parental alienation to me, trash talking. I'm so sorry about your experience. They're bigots who spread poison. There is no non-nefarious version of intent here. They can grow some morals if they want to be judged fit to be around children. They're welcome to go off to the island of other bigots and never be seen again. Decent people have a world to run. Oh, they have morals, just very ugly ones. What they lack is ethical values. Arguments I've had with my parents always get categorized as disrespectful because I had the audacity to bring up their crafty behavior. And I'm saying this as a person with a genuinely good relationship with my parents. A lot of older people were waiting their turn to have their rights as older people growing up, and now they are upset because their children won't tolerate it like they did. For a lot of them, it probably isn't even a conscious mode thought. But it really clicked for me after hearing enough of the older generation talk about how crazy our grandparents were. You've elucidated a crucial truth here. A lot of them are thinking it's their turn to be domineering buttholes and they want it. I don't have much patience with people like this. If you're upset because you don't get to shove people around like a bully, why the hell would I have any sympathy for you? This is just too generous. I would not want my children to be exposed to people with this worldview. I might have been more generous before the last 4 years of division politically, but I now see how dangerous they really are. People like the ops parents are rigid in their views and clearly won't be swayed by reason. They treated their daughter horribly. Let them suck eggs. It more than likely won't be some nefarious plot. But it will happen that they will try to impart their girls stay-at-home boys go to college mindset. They just want to be able to have access to their grandkid. I'm also betting they want to try and convince Original Post to give up on her silly dreams to be a stay-at-home mom, and we're probably expecting to be welcomed with open arms and thanked for giving her the necessary skills needed to be a good mom. Aren't you glad we made you learn all the women's skills? Now you can properly take care of your baby at home and quit your job like you're supposed to. That is a really good take. I had decided it was probably grandkid access, but to pressure her to be single mom stay at home, yeah, I can see them doing that. Depending on how much money they have and how it affects them, money doesn't really buy forgiveness, though I think it was an excellent thing to say. Basically, if you are sorry, make the things you are sorry for right, and if that's just out of the question, then they don't really want to make amends. I'm betting it's more like the parents are trying to save face. If Original Post has a child and her parents aren't allowed to see it, people are going to ask why. Ops parents are trying to get her to drop it so they don't have to answer uncomfortable questions about why Original Post doesn't speak to them. Edit. And I think Original Post is brilliant to suggest that they pay her back in order for them to perpetuate an image they don't deserve. You are absolutely right. This is bound to be a part of it. People this committed to rigid gender roles would die of shame if their church found out that Original Post wants nothing to do with them, won't let them see their grandchild. They're trying to get back into her good graces so they can bring that grandbaby to their toxic church. The money Original Post can put aside for her kids' education. Yep, this was my first thought. They're probably thinking that since Original Post is pregnant, she's finally come to her senses, and will now do the proper thing. When she doesn't, they'll be appalled. Or they are worried about saving their grandkids' souls. Or do nothing but judge and demean her if she has her child in daycare instead of quitting her silly career and staying home to raise her child. Ops parents and brothers are buttholes. Easy for brothers to say whatever. They didn't take on any debt. Will all of them kick in for 1/4 of her debt to balance things out a little? Not likely. It's always so strange yet understandable to me how those that got everything often can't see how unfair the situation was. I was honestly the favored child, and I always tried to at least do something small for my brother because I understood it wasn't fair or right. I was a kid and understood this, yet gown-ass adults out here calling Original Post a butthole because she's just asking to have the same deal they got. Reminds me of a comic where they show one person growing in poverty and the other in wealth. Poverty wanted to be a chef when they grew up, and you see their life as they struggle through everything. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I think they moved to the big city only to get rejected from every place they apply at. They end up as a server at a fancy party, and that's where it ends for them. But the wealthy person's story shows how his dad told him he had a friend at this office and got him an interview. Guy was nervous and didn't know he would get it, but in the end did, obviously. Then we see how, yes, He works hard, but all of it is really him already having a name out there because of his dad. Lots of older men at parties kissing up to him, pawing off his work to those below them and such. And at the end we see him grab a snack from a passing server as he talks about how poor people are only poor because they don't work as hard as we do, and the server he grabbed the snack from was the person we saw grow in poverty. I'm not trying to diminish his struggle. I'm sure he had to go through his own things, but dismissive language like that is harmful and ignorant. Also, they probably expects Original Post to take care of them when they get old. These parents can go straight to the worst-rated nursing home I could find if they were mine. Edit, they can go beg their sons to take care of them. NTA in this writer bow that you have filled your duty as a woman they want you in their lives. My guess is if you had they would be nagging you to quit your job and be a good little housewife. They don't want a relationship with her, just her uterus and uterine accessories. Uterine accessories is the single best description of kids I've ever seen in my life. Or the sweet money Original Post is probably making as an engineer. I've been wondering about that. Resources are for men, in their view, and daughters are for being servants. Therefore, they probably think, her earnings exist for the purpose of taking care of them while her brothers do not. If they ever do ask Original Post for money, I suggest her only response should be sending them an itemized invoice for the cost of her college education. Exactly this. Resources are for men and daughters are for being servants. The daughter is supposed to take care of the parents when they are no longer able to live independently. Of course her brothers are calling her immature, they don't want to be parent caretakers. Edited to add, not the butthole. Or they expect her to adopt the traditional role of caring for them in their old age. Hard pass. If she's the second youngest it stands to reason they are getting up there. And of course the boys have their own families to provide for. Pretty rich of her brothers to accuse her of being immature and hurtful when the parents literally tried to stop her from accessing higher education. I think that's effing abusive. Absolutely agree. NTA. And I really love this and I think more people should say this in response to non-apology apologies. I asked them specifically what they were sorry for. And you can tell that they really weren't sorry by their non-response, they wouldn't elaborate and just said they wanted to move forward. It's hard to move forward when you're stuck in that ditch you dug 10+ years ago. It might be interesting if Original Post gave her parents a choice in regards to restarting a relationship, pay her the $100,000, or elaborate and explain what they're not sorry about. It might be the fastest anyone ever got together $100,000. It might be interesting if Original Post gave her parents a choice in regards to restarting a relationship, pay her the $100,000, or elaborate and explain what they're not sorry about. It sounds to me like that's exactly the choice Original Post gave them, and they couldn't follow through on either option. Because of course the father still doesn't see his actions as wrong. It's actually possible the mom gets it, but isn't allowed to contradict the father in public. Hence the bawling started when she heard the conditions and realized that the father would refuse, leaving her with no options. Also, now that Original Post is married and pregnant they think she'll quit working and follow the rules. They'll be even more pissed when, I'm assuming, Original Post continues her career after giving birth. NTA that's a generic sorry or upset non-apology. They are just around now because they want to influence the baby. The $100K ask is fair if they have the means to pay it. And even if they don't, they somehow made it work for the other 3 siblings. That said, what on earth are you thinking letting these people around your kids? She's pregnant and met up with them because they asked. Baby is still safe in her uterus. Not sure why you are accusing her of letting them around her kids when she said they've barely spoken in years except for that meetup. They can still influence the baby even though it's not born yet. Yeah, that was probably a misread or a heavy jump on the gun. Wait. Ops jumping on guns now? What about her child? Flushed face. What's even dumber are the legions of people upvoting the comment. I don't know why people come here to not read the goddamn posts. When did she let them around her kids? She said she is expecting her first child. I think they thought the baby was already out. It's fair even if they don't. It was their job to support all their children equally. Though if they don't have it, I'd suggest accepting a payment plan with a legally enforceable agreement to pay. Like, if they're willing to pay but can't all at once. Somehow, though, I doubt it'll ever get that far. NTA, they're not even willing, or able, to articulate what they did wrong, or even that they did wrong. That should be the minimum criteria for being in your life now. My only qualm is that pay me $100,000 is a pretty high marker to meet, hence my first paragraph, and even if they wanted to, they probably couldn't all at once. But they weren't even willing to give you an actual apology or admit any fault, much less work with you to reach a fair but achievable means of redress, so F that. It's actually a low marker for the full history of what they've done. Is being overgracious. Not disagreeing that she deserves and is owed it, just thinking in terms of what's realistically achievable. I'm assuming they started saving for their son's college tuition when the sons were first born. If they had genuinely had a change of heart and wanted to make it up to her, but hadn't had the chance to save up for it, that's when I'd suggest being flexible with terms. But they're light years away from reaching that point, so no. Admittedly, this is theorizing about a hypothetical situation rather than the actual one, so essentially pointless, but I just got stuck on that thought. Sorry you felt that way about us wanting you to be dependent with no means to support yourself and be at risk of struggling all your life if you didn't find a man and start making babies. Oh, and sorry you didn't like it that we told you aren't allowed to apply for college. I come from a conservative society, but my education was never something disliked or not supported. My parents have always supported me and my sisters to go for what we want and get our degrees. This level of cruelness a parent can be is just insane. They want the married and pregnant daughter, that's it. And it's obvious they'll poison things once they get better access. They've not changed. The brothers, on the other hand. F them. With a prick. You get handed everything, the least you could do is shut the F up. Entitled Buttholes Thinking They're Better. Original post is the mature one cause she got out and didn't let her family ruin her future. NTA. I thought the same thing. They aren't sorry for what they did, they just want their grandbabies, and you just know that if original post lets them back in without a real apology, then they will do everything in their power to worm their way back in an attempt to control original post and her family. NTA op. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.